Many folks ain't never heard of me, so I'ma introduce myself by using some hyperboles. I am that voice that talks a ton, but no one chatters back. They rather act like bladders acting spaz on rappers. Matter of fact, that's so real, I can't say it's like nah yet. Feelings that I caught made me feel that caution. Waiting for the day I get the silence I deserve. So I ain't talking oxen when I say I just wanna be heard. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let him hear who I am. I wanna show him now's my time. Today is my day to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's
The playoffs continue with only 2 races left to gain a championship ticket. 9 drivers come into tonight vying for the final 4, but they have to face the music first in order to get to South Beach in a couple of weeks. Live tonight, we welcome you to the virtual Nashville Super Speedway, bringing you coverage of the Limeade Music City 100 right here on the KBueno Racing Network for the next round of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. Hello everybody and welcome to what is a pivotal round in this round of 9 going over to the championship floor. We're atop the broadcast booth alongside Francisco Bacalhau. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, there is no doubt after 1 week ago at the Iowa Speedway, we would have somewhat of a premonition as to who is good and who's kind of out. This round though means a lot because it's the intermediate round between Iowa and what's going to be Charlotte in 1 week time. That means you've got to make some very big moves to avoid having your back against the wall when we get to NASCAR's hometown.
Yeah, this is going to be a big event here tonight, kind of a crucial race in this round of the playoffs. We have 1 race left after tonight, so you have to make sure you're not in a big hole going into the final race before the championship event. And Nashville Super Speedway is not exactly your traditional racetrack. It's not a cookie cutter. There's no other racetrack that's particularly like this. It's a 1.3-mile racetrack. It's about 1 1/3, and it's made out of concrete, so it's different, not the same surface. And the shape is similar to most of the D-shaped ovals that we tend to see out on the bigger racetracks, but it's tighter. You can see the front straightaway, a bigger radius or tighter radius. Same thing with the corners, a little bit flatter as well. So you're carrying a lot of speed through these corners, and it's relatively flat, so it's going to eat the tires up a little bit, as well as the concrete surface nature of the racetrack. And knowing how the Tennessee climate is, even though we are approaching the nighttime, it's still going to be relatively warm for us being in the southeast of the country. So I think we're going to be seeing some cars sliding here tonight, given the fact that we just went over the natural causes of the racetrack, and of course the NASCAR Xfinity cars with the low downforce. It's going to be interesting seeing who navigates this as best as possible.
It's definitely going to be a lot of fun as you look at our KBueno track map on your screen, with images, of course, provided to us by our friends over at Google Earth. This track, a little bit far out from main downtown Nashville. It's located in Lebanon, Tennessee, but still carries the spirit of the Music City. It's a 1.333-mile, 2.145-kilometer track with 14 degrees of banking at every single turn, and this surface made of concrete, much like the ones you see over at Dover International Speedway. Of course, those two companies, the one that owns both tracks, very similar in nature. They both made the same surface on the racetrack, and this history, especially with the Nashville Super Speedway, kind of has increments in 10 years. It opened in 2001, then 10 years later closed in 2011 after holding its final NASCAR Nationwide Series race, what that series was called at the time, and then reopened in 2021 in the middle of the summer to reintroduce NASCAR racing back, with the Cup Series going in the midst of the summer. Kyle Larson taking the very first win here in Nashville Super Speedway in the return to NASCAR Cup competition. But apart from the track, we've got a very big thing to talk about, and that is, of course, playoff standings, point standings, where these drivers sit after Iowa. We talked about the fact that there could be some drivers who fall out, end up in a pretty deep hole after what was a very interesting Iowa race, flag to flag all the way through. Not a worry, though, for Garrett White. win last week. Of course, has gone 3 in a row in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. So he seems to be okay. Seems like his trip to the Championship 4 is going to be rather smooth. Same deal possibly for Josh Patterson. But Francisco, we've got a rather big field here tonight from Nashville, way bigger than Iowa last week. So that means that theoretically, any one of these drivers can either, 1, fall out of their championship gain, and number 2, try to overcome the deficit to get back into the game.
Yeah, you see right there, the cutoff is really tight between several drivers, so just a handful of spots can make the biggest difference in the turnout of this race and how the points will shake up going into the last race of this round next week. But of course, you have to do that right now. You have to start now in qualifying. Make sure you have a good qualifying. Make sure you're as close to the front of the field as possible so that you can stay ahead of any possible troubles that brew in the middle of the pack, because that's usually the danger spot, isn't it? In every race, it's right in the middle of the field. You get behind somebody and they make a mistake, and you end up being the person that unfortunately gets the worst end of that mistake, and that ruins your race. You don't want to be in that position. You want to make sure you control what happens to you. If you're going to be eliminated, you want it to be on your terms, not somebody else's. So we're going to see these guys try their very best to go around this racetrack, not in that drifting style. That's not going to be the style they want to do it. They're going to want to go in the right direction with the cars pointed straight. And as qualifying ends, Kenneth, we're going to be getting ready to go green here in just a handful of moments. And the sun's relatively down, and the sun sets rather early here in Nashville. That's one thing I noticed when I went there, is that sunset, even after the daylight saving time, it'll set rather early. So in sim, it's rather early in the day. So despite it being close to night, it's still rather warm, but we are going to finish completely in the dark under the lights, and that could make a change between the start of the race and the finish.
And in the NASCAR Cup Series race in real life, they race under the sunshine. Tonight, we race underneath the moonlight. Drivers are tucked right behind the iRacing official pace truck, and that means it is our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be starting here tonight in the Limeade Music City 100 for the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. Wyatt Tinsley sets the fastest time in qualifying in the 005 car, 30.493 to lead the field. The green flag for the first time tonight. Austin Doran, who's won 2 races in this season, still vying for his 3rd win in the campaign. He will start on the outside in P2.
In your second row, you see Gino Merrill there in the 3rd position, the 71. He's going to have a really good qualifying effort. Alongside him, Ethan Workman, who showed some pace at Iowa. We'll see if he's able to replicate the similar result.
Had a really good race at Iowa 1 week ago. Looking to do the same here tonight from Nashville Superspeedway. Quentin Haley returns to the series in the 13. He'll line up the inside of the top 5. And a brand new driver, I don't believe we've seen him this season, Lath Hicks in the 06. Very good qualifying effort as he starts outside in that 3rd row.
Shane Fuller in the 57 is going to be in the P7 spot, with Mason Sweet in the 56 in the P8.
Back to row number 5, the final drivers in the top 10 include multi-time winner this season, Christian Visconti in 9th, and Jaden Carter, who lines up a 30.774 to be on the inside of the top 10.
Jake Mativier will be in the 11th position, just missing out on that top 10, with Frederick Segraves. I think he's also new here, Kenneth, in the 95.
Well, 95 has been around for a while. Jake Mativier making his 2nd start here in this series. Josh Patterson, very good gap to the deficit, or really the cut line in the playoffs, but he's only 10 points ahead, so he's got a little bit of work to do as he starts 13th. Logan Pugh will ride on 14th here in the outside of row 7. We'll look through the rest of the field. It's a rather stout field here tonight, 33 drivers in total. That means that a lot of points are on the line, similar to the vibe over at Talladega Superspeedway, where we had the cutoff round for the round of 14. All of the drivers there looking, of course, get the race win. And for the playoff drivers, it's all about staying alive and making sure you can be above that cut line, which everybody really wants to avoid. Francisco, you touched a bit on the weather. We'll take a look as to how the weather looks here in Nashville, or Lebanon, Tennessee, rather. 83 degrees in the air, so rather warm here in the south. Winds to the northeast at about 8 miles per hour. No humidity, no fog. We've got a partly cloudy evening in sim. We're going to see the sunset by the time we get to the checkered flag. Means the grip is going to go up, but nonetheless, the tensions will boil, and the temperatures will be very high on that stake. 2 Chevrolet Camaros leading us to the field. Wyatt Tinsley, Austin Doran to the green flag in the Limeade Music City 100. There's a stack up near the rear, but we're underway from Nashville.
And you see cars going almost all the way to the grass further in the back, so a huge checkup in the back of the field results in cars going all over the place. It looks as though everyone's pointed straight, So I think we're going to make it through 1 and 2 so far clean. You see it 3 wide further in the back. Guys are trying to work their way through and have a clean race car. But up in the front, Tinsley's able to hold on with Doran in second, and Merrill's able to clear for third. But actually, a caution coming into turn 3. It looks like we got a wreck in the middle / back portion of the field. And you see right there, car towing. It looks like it was the 96.
It's Matthew McDonald, dropped all the way to the very end of the running order, and his Supra already fairly beat up. So you have our first caution, lap 1 of 77, and we'll have planned here tonight from the Nashville Super Speedway. We'll take a look at the replay, see exactly how it all began, and it kind of tails back to the drivers checking up on the very start. And we're going 3 wide. That looks to be TJ Lair on the outside, the 18 car on the very bottom, and they just make slight contact, and it sends McDonald up into the outside wall. TJ Lair absolutely nowhere he could go to get away from it. You'll take another look at it this time from an aerial shot. We'll try to get it here. You see 96 goes to the middle. It doesn't seem to be too big of a problem. But then right about here as they exit off the 14 degrees of banking, the slight contact is made. And then McDonald just gets ping-ponged into the 85. And around he goes. Of course, that is a caution. Nobody else seems to be involved in the incident apart from those 3.
It looked like there was some slight neck code because they were drifting towards each other, but not at a spectacular rate. And there was also a little bit more room to the outside towards the 85 that 96 could have used, but was trying to stay close down on that 18, and unfortunately ended up causing a crash. So you see a couple cars able to just narrowly escape through on lap 1. Not exactly what you want to have on the first lap of the race, and no fast repairs for these guys. So if you had some consequential damage there, you're likely either done or you're most likely going to have to run with the damage the whole way.
It's going to be tough for those drivers, especially McDonald, who was just trying to gain some positions very early on in tonight's race. Unfortunately, though, the field will slow down, will end up behind the iRacing official pace car for, I guess, specifically the second time tonight, if you count being on the grid as being behind it the first time. But nonetheless, Wyatt Tinsley was very convincingly out front by a couple of car lengths to Austin Duran, had no troubles getting away from the fellow Camaro right behind him. So everybody gonna single file here. Looks to be no calls on pit road apart from damage repair. Doesn't seem to be the strategy call for everybody to come in this time by. But we'll talk a little bit more about this track, Francisco. And I mentioned on the track map, the one thing that this track has that's very different from a lot of others we've visited so far in the calendar is the fact that this has a concrete surface. Most of the time when we go to tracks around the schedule, they usually mostly have the same surface in common, most of them of course being asphalt, and then the one exception we had the last regular season race was a dirt track made out of clay. But this one, much like the Dover International Speedway, is all concrete. Means this surface retains a lot of heat. The number 2, Francisco, destroys the tires.
That's true of concrete surfaces. That's usually why they're only really used on driveways and patios and areas where cars aren't really going to be moving continuously. So when you put that on a racetrack, it's going to eat the tires up. And having been in Tennessee rather recently, Kenneth, I can tell you that the climate there, it's very extreme. In the winters, they get very cold. You can get some snow here in this area of the state, but in the summer, it can get just as hot as South Florida, and the humidity can also be very difficult to handle. So a wide range in the climate definitely affects the concrete surface, how it expands and contracts as the temperatures rise and fall. And that, of course, affects how bumpy it is, how worn out it becomes over time. And that, of course, in turn affects the racing when we go to racetracks like this. And I was fortunate enough to go past it, not particularly close towards it, but I was able to go by I-40, and I saw it off in the distance. So it looks like it looks bigger than you may imagine for a track that's just over a mile in length. And you know, I could only imagine what it's like to go there for a race. I hope to do so sometime. It would definitely be fun hanging out in Nashville and taking about a 30-minute drive out to Lebanon and be able to catch a race here at this Nashville Super Speedway. You see the guys now lining up, double wide, getting ready to go green, Kenneth. So we'll try it again. Hopefully we don't crash on the restart.
Hopefully not. Hopefully we're able to get some green flag racing in, and I think I can echo your sentiments there about Nashville Super Speedway. Obviously, we've never been to the track when there's a race weekend at stake, but from the TV perspective, or at least watching how it was on social media, all the people that were actually there during that weekend in 2021, you could tell the atmosphere very electric, all the fans very passionate for a race at Nashville. This is the first time they were there in a very long time for the Cup Series. Of course, it had only been 10 years since the NASCAR Nationwide Series had visited, and I believe that was also a Sunset Tonight race or an afternoon setting, somewhere around that figure. You looked at Josh Patterson, and we didn't do that by accident. That is on purpose because he is the highest running playoff driver right now. He is 13th with those orange banner on the windshield, the orange spoiler, the orange splitter. Let you know that they are running for the championship this year in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, but there is a slew of non-playoff competitors looking for the win in front. They are being led by the 005 of Wyatt Tinsley. Because the caution came out on lap 1, everybody single file. We're back to green. Wyatt Tinsley up and away.
And you see how long the line of cars is when they do line up single file like that, so you can really have separation built into the restart when you do restart single file. That's probably why they have it set up that way in this series. You have quick cautions, you separate the field naturally as such, and it tends to help. It really does, and people eventually will get racing with one another in due time. And you see already that's going on right up there in the front. You see cars making moves inside the top 10. That's the 57 of Shane Fuller trying to make a move to the inside of that 06, and they're going to be side by side on the front straightaway inside the top 10.
That's Lath Hicks there on the very top, trying to make sure he can play some defense. And in the 14 degrees of banking, you can actually hold in that second line for a little while and pretty much keep your line there when a driver's on the bottom. That's a pure example right there in 1 and 2. Hicks ran a little bit higher than Fuller did, but was still able to get the momentum coming off of the banking and back onto the back straightaway. As they're going side by side, they're inviting a fellow 80 machine of Christian Visconti, the Visco car, Chevrolet Camaro, now starting to peek in. This is, of course, a battle for the entrance into the top 6. All of them trying to catch up to the 13 of Quentin Haley, who holds in to the top 5. Shane Fuller is able to make that pass complete. Here comes Visconti now for the taking here in this position. That'll be for 7th. Meanwhile, most of the field, Francisco, single file. Actually, never mind when you get back to Logan Pugh. A little bit of a hornet's nest. Driver single file. Seagraves gets tapped, goes up into the air. Will the caution wave because of it? Answer is no. We'll stay green.
He went hard into the wall, but he keeps it pointed in the right direction, so no caution there. You see a car in front get in the wall as well, so we'll see what happened there. I think he tried to predict where the 01 would enter and just timed it wrong and ran right into the right rear of that 01. Fortunate not to turn the 01, but he caught airtime. He had a wheelie moment there and went hard into the wall, but able to keep it pointed straight. You're going to see right there, boom. That's not going to help the suspension.
And there was also miscommunication there as the 95 was just trying to keep up with the 01. You see the 01 starts to slow down, hops on the brakes right there and again to turn 3. And then Seagraves just slams into the car, takes flight for a moment before landing back on all fours. And he's got some heavy left front damage as the field decided to absolutely swarm around him and get by. Seagraves losing a lot of track position on behalf of that contact with Pugh. He's going to end up 3 wide here. That's Brandon Sampson on the bottom, Ryan Zibro on the very middle. And so Seagraves will continue to let everybody by. It's not been pretty for the 95 early on. As of lap 10, we may have, though, battle for the race lead on our hands. Francisco, here comes Austin Duran, almost giving the bumper to the 005.
Doran's looking for that lead, and if you can get the lead, the clean air at Nashville is very useful and very helpful for your tires and just your overall race. So if Doran stays here too long, it's not going to be good. So if he wants to get by the leader, he's going to have to do it quick or start running a different line. And he can do so. You can move up about a lane, possibly 2, and really back up your entry and get a really good exit and set yourself up for the next corner. If you can do that a couple times, it could be helpful. You see, I think right there, this 5 is going to move up. Give the 55 a chance to go to the inside. He'll have momentum off the corner, but if they stay side by side, this could give him an opportunity to 3. It looks like he'll get clear, just enough momentum off the high side. Doran's not going to try and put that one down on the bottom. He's going to try and reset once again. Hook that bottom a little bit better. No line, but if you can get close to that apron, I'm not sure what it exactly is with the tires or with the aerodynamics of a race car, but when you really get close to an apron in that way, you seem to find just a little bit of more grip. So if you're able to do that, that could be very helpful into helping the car turn, especially when you're this close behind somebody.
You know, and I'm surprised that Wyatt Tinsley opened the door there in the corner for Doran to peek to the bottom, but it just may be a little bit of a tease there for the 005 saying, hey, you can take the inside, but you're probably not going to beat me off of the corner. I'm probably going to get the better exit than you, and I'm going to be able to keep you back in my dirty air, hold on to the race lead, and that's exactly what Wyatt Tinsley is able to do although it's pretty much non-existent, the gap between the 05 and the 55, as the 71 Gino Mero, one of the drivers to catch up. And Mero, one of the playoff drivers in this season. Of course, you don't see the banners on his 71 Ford Mustang, but we talked about him last week, Francisco. Did not have the greatest race of all time, or at least a race to really catapult him amongst the playoff standings. Going into tonight, he is 5th, so he is 2 points behind fellow competitor Timmy Spatz. And as you look down the running order, Timmy Spatz is now running 13th. He is the driver currently holding the last spot in what would be the theoretical championship 4. So already a good step in the right direction for Gino Mero as he holds on to 3rd and tries to catch up to the leaders.
He's doing exactly what he has to. He's running good and hoping that it's enough. And you see, most of the playoff drivers tonight relatively have been in the struggle area. So if this stays the way it is for Gino Mero, it could be a very big points gain and possibly put him in the green as we head into the final race next week. But what we saw up there in that battle for the lead between Tinsley and Doran, Kenneth, is when you're on the outside of somebody and you can stay there, that could really be good for defensive driving and really holding a spot. The last time we were at Nashville, you saw that a strategy being employed by me when I was trying to fight the lead with Eric Schaefer. I gave him the bottom a couple times and he just couldn't make the pass work. So passing on the bottom is going to be a premium. You have to probably have about a 2 or 3/10 pace advantage if you really want to make the bottom work effectively. Otherwise, you have to do something to get to the outside, and it's not easy because they're not going to give it to you.
Is everybody going to be really cutthroat here? Here's a battle for 17th. A lot of drivers tucked in together. That is Grayson Collins, league owner, the driver dead last in the round of 9 right now. Really needs a good outing here tonight from the Nashville Super Speedway, and then has some non-playoff drivers right behind him. Nick Penna in the 52, the 001 of J. Ramiah Brooks. I believe he's making his first start in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. So warm welcome to this Ford Mustang driver who's now trying to creep in underneath that 52 and almost about made it 3 wide. They're going to settle in. That is Brandon Sampson on the very high side, although Sampson is 3 laps down, so he is not running for position on the racetrack. Also to note, we watched a couple of drivers battling around the top 5, and one of them was the 06 of Lath Hicks. I believe he has since hit pit road. Maybe something happened there to the car. Actually, some damage. No caution that came out, but he is listed as 5 laps down on the racetrack.
May have gotten hard into the wall, Kenneth. I'm not sure. I haven't seen exactly what happened to him, but I think you can imagine that perhaps he went hard into the outside wall because you see that right side being heavily damaged. And right there, I think you saw it seemed to happen at the end of the lap that he probably had an issue in 3 and 4, tried to chase the car up the racetrack, and that's what sent him into the outside wall. And with these Xfinity cars, much like the ARCA cars in a sense, if you get into the wall hard enough, it's very hard to come off that wall. So you see a high entry into the corner. He gets to the bottom right there, but I think he just pushes and slams the wall. And actually the car in front of him did too. So 2 cars hard into the wall, and he's able to keep it straight to avoid a caution being brought out.
That was a synchronized hit between the 57 and the 06. The one in front, Shane Fuller. But Lath Hicks ends up going to pit road. Now trying to take in all the damage repair here that's going to happen on his car. And Shane Fuller has obviously fallen off significantly as a result of that. We'll see where he stands. We'll look down the running order, and he is all the way back in 15th, right behind a 79 machine. That is Caden Wright with the rookie stripes on his Ford Mustang. So Fuller is able to continue. Lath Hicks trying to make sure he can get back out on track, although he's multiple laps down. And speaking of which, kind of battle for the race lead already settled. Austin Doran finally made the pass on Wyatt Tinsley. We'll see if he can hold it on.
And you see right there, they're going to turn 3 once again, and Doran already in the lead. So now it's role reversal, really. We have to see if Tinsley can make some sort of run at him. And you see right on his rear bumper at the exit of the corner, kind of gets him loose, and now he's on the inside. We'll see now if Tinsley's able to make the bottom work. Doran maybe was able to use the outside or did something different, but right there you see he's going to actually retake the lead. So Doran able to make the bottom, or excuse me, Tinsley able to make the bottom work. Doran's now going to try and fight back. He's going to get back to the outside. So the crucial thing for the 55 is he's able to stay on the outside of the 5. It can hold position, but he's going to back out of that one and try again to retake later.
Austin Doran looked for the crossover, it appears there. Ran high, tried to arc it low coming out of turn 4. That time, though, did not pick up enough time to get back to the inside of Tinsley's machine. And so we'll remain 1-2, 005 and 55 once again. Doran with some short run success there. beating Wyatt Tinsley for the race lead, but they'll stay at 1-2 as they're slowly pulling away from the 71 in Gino Mero. There's Lath Hicks just behind, so good to see Lath Hicks back out on the racetrack. Unfortunately, though, that car severely torn up with the incident there, along with Shane Fuller. Here's another playoff driver who runs second to Garrett White, Josh Patterson in the 0-2. We've talked about it, Francisco, the strength that this driver in this car has had over the playoffs. And there's one word to describe him, it would be the word consistent, because he's racked up a lot of great top 5s, top 10s, top 3s, maybe close to race wins overall. Just has not found the checkered flag in the playoffs, but still, no slouch here, the 0-2 is.
No, he hasn't been a slouch at all in these playoffs. He's been the most consistent as far as points go. When you take out the domination that we've seen out of the car in front of him, being the 26 of Garrett White. He's in the 8th spot right now, and I'm sure you noticed that when we saw him just when we were off board, you see right there some damage on the front nose of his race car. You have to wonder if that happened on one of these restarts, so it must be affecting his car a pretty decent amount, because that's some pretty substantial damage, and you see the 7's actually going to go by, so he's going to lose a spot right now. You have to wonder how much is that impacting his race car, how much time is he losing because of that damage, and how much can be repaired if we were to get a caution.
It definitely could affect the handling of the race car, and we've seen countless times where even if you get some front end damage, or most notably right front damage from hitting the outside wall, the car is going to start to understeer even more than it already was. So if you suffered a push effect coming out of the corner when you're on the throttle, it's only going to get exacerbated when you have some damage on your NASCAR Xfinity Series race car. That was the 7, Jaden Carter getting by. He's going to try to reel in the 25 of Ethan Workman this time through. We'll see if we can get through. A very good pickup so far for the driver of the 7 in Jaden Carter. We'll still watch the drivers around 17th on back, because it is not let up whatsoever. There's playoff driver Jay Mulder in the 51. Moving in for 17th, we talked about Brayson Collins holding that spot a little earlier in this event. He has since fallen to 21st, right behind the 50, or rather the, looks to be the 001, that's Shaver Maya Brooks, that he's sitting behind at the Mulder. At the moment, Mulder +3 in this championship fight, so he is relatively good when it comes to staying above the cut line for Homestead, but it's only 3 points, so that could really change significantly coming out of Nashville. And so far, the Canadian doing rather well to keep himself in the midfield.
Yeah, he's doing a good job here tonight. Been quiet, but sometimes quiet is good, depending on the context in which you're in reference to. And if he's able to get a solid finish, then that's all he can really hope for in terms of just giving himself another opportunity to get into that championship 4 come next week. And, you know, there you see the move now by Visconti to the inside of that 13 to take that position inside the top 5 now. So Visconti's slowly starting to work his way up to the front. We'll see if the 13 can make a comeback effort. He's trying to off the corner. He's going to slide a little bit off forward. Don't think he's going to get back there, so you can give the spot to the 80 of Christian Visconti. And we'll see how much he can gain on your leaders. They're pretty separated right now. Tinsley's been able to pull almost a second on Austin Doran, and you have to go another 2.5 back almost to the 71 of Mero. So quite a bit of ways to go for the 80 because he wants to try and catch up to your leaders. We have about 48 laps to go in this race, which means that if we go green the whole way like we did last week, Kenneth, is that we're going to have to see green flag pit stops. And if we do that, then I think it's going to be very interesting because this pit road is not particularly easy entering and exiting.
And also you got to think about the weird portion of the track that goes from turn 3 to the entrance of pit road. I don't believe that the admins here at the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series will force the drivers to use the access road that is there. As you're right on board here with Visconti, you'll see what I mean. Actually, a little bit of a connection issue there, but right there underneath that little patch of grass and then that little bit of asphalt there on the very bottom, that's the access road going into pit road. I don't believe they're enforcing the usage of that as Haley slaps the outside wall on the way there. But we'll just see, it's still going to be rather difficult to get down to pit road speed limit. Of course, to slow down and get your way onto the stall and hopefully not retain damage like Haley did out of turn 4, getting out of the way. By the way, to mention, Christian Visconti, who just slipped into 4th by getting around the 13. It's been a total of about 3 months since Visconti has gone to victory lane. The last time we saw him win a race was at Kansas on December 30th before the new year. So it's been a while, Francisco, since this 80 machine, the Visco Car Chevrolet, has gone to victory lane. He's had some speed. He's had some absences in many of the races where it felt like he would be a contender for the checkered flag at the end of it. But good to see Christian Visconti back and running well in 4th. I think that's a showage to how good he is at this track, and maybe could show us that he'll be in place for victory lane sooner than later.
And I think the crucial thing, and you brought it up there, is sometimes the driver is just absent for the race. And it could be for a multitude of reasons. We don't have to get into specifics on that, but usually there's reasons why a driver can't make a specific race, just busy or other personal things that get in the way. But when you are on the racetrack, it's definitely one to watch because we've seen him win multiple times throughout the season. I think if he was able to show up with just a tad bit more and be in these races, I think he'd be right up there challenging that 26 of Garrett White, the 02 of Patterson in the points and with the race wins. So I wouldn't discount that 80. And if we end up going into next season, Kenneth, he's definitely going to be one to challenge.
Hopefully Visconti can make a full-time effort in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series if we do have a Season 2 on that respective series. As Joe Berge goes to the inside of Ethan Workman, that was a pass, or now an attempted pass so far for what's going to be 9th, entrance into the top 10, most likely as Patterson got by. He's now slipped into 8th, and he'll probably get another car down one position as Mason Sweet, the one in front. And Patterson sort of tailing this 83 of Joe Berge. Both of them nose to tail quite close together as it gets rather close to their entrance of turn 3. And the 56 going to go way up the track. The Dirty Mo Media door bumper clear machine. That's a Justin Allgaier paint scheme that was ran not too long ago in the real life NASCAR Xfinity Series season. And Josh Patterson going to go around. That's also a deadly part of this National Super Speedway, much like its sister track in Dover. That apron, once you hit it, it's very dangerous.
It is very dangerous, and it's in a similar style. You notice the apron's a little bit darker, and it's made out of asphalt. That's exactly how the Dover apron is as well. You see a move here now for the position. To the inside goes Berge, trying to take that position away, the 83, trying to see if he can get up into 7th. They'll have the advantage off turn 4. 02 is going to have a run on the top and actually gets clear off the corner, so you can put the 83 ahead of the 02, and he's going to try and pull away now and cruise to a 7th place finish. And we're going to see, actually, Kenneth, I'm curious as to when these guys will decide to come down pit road because the fuel window is probably about 40 to 43 laps, I think, with these Xfinity cars. So you'll basically be able to go on one stop safely. But on what side of the window do you want to be on? Because you could come in right now and you'll be fine. As you see the 79 take a moment there because they were going to go 3 wide and use the apron just a little bit. But we'll see when these guys decide to come down pit road. You can do so now and make it to the end. But do you want to wait until the end of the run as the 05 scrubs the wall?
We'll have to see. I figure that if the window is around that 40 lap mark, or at least rather close to it, you probably expect that many of the drivers in this field would probably go half and half. They'd probably just want to pit right now, maybe close to now, where it's pretty much direct 50-50 going from the start of the race to the end of the race. But so far, we've had really no takers on pit road. Everybody has been rather content to stay out on the racetrack and just hold as much as they can in terms of track position. Here's a look at your race leader, Wyatt Tinsley. He's opened up to about a 2.5-second gap over Austin Doran. So that battle between the two Chevrolets rather short-lived on this end. Wyatt Tinsley, the better driver over the long run, as he's going to most likely get around TJ Lair. We saw Lair involved in the first incident tonight, which also caught in a couple of more drivers, and Lair not the best running so far as he's got some more damage on the front end. He had to completely repair the front clip because it was completely removed by the time he came out of turn 2 and the caution came out where he was involved on the outside wall. Here's Tinsley going around, and this will mark, Francisco, about the 40th lap. These drivers have stayed out and gone green flag racing, so I think sooner than later we're going to see them slowly start to peel in on pit road. And I think the question is, instead of what side of the window, it's going to be who's going to go first.
Yeah, it's always about who breaks the ice, and I think right there you actually see someone coming in, and it's going to be the 02 of Patterson. I think someone else is following him further behind. He's going to be aggressive on the pit entry. Looks like he's going to be good to go. You see right there the 01 of Logan Pugh, the 44 of Timmy Spatz. He's going to enter as well. So a couple of takers here on lap 40 and a couple more behind. So I think now you're really going to see the pit road sequence kick off. You don't want to be too far off of these guys when they come down pit road, but if you're Wyatt Tinsley, you have no reason to come in right now. You can just stay out as long as possible. Look at the mess of cars entering pit road. Everyone's starting to come in, Kenneth. So far, I think Doran's in as well. So if I'm Wyatt Tinsley, I would stay out as long as possible and get my tires as late as I possibly can.
There's another driver that also stays out here. That is Christian Visconti. It appears Ethan Workman is also going to hold out hope in third as he gains track position. There's a look at the 55. He's going to come in for a stop. He'll head into his stall. All the brakes, 100%. I like how he has a stop sign on his actual pit road sign there. Yeah, pretty bland, or pretty concrete, pretty decisive, but nonetheless very good. Gino Mero there, you see him blinking in and out. He's going to get 4 tires and fuel to go on his way. This should most likely get the field to the end of this race. Of course, Mero, a playoff driver, working for a substantial amount of points. And speaking of the leader, here's Wyatt Tinsley. Did not stay out another lap. He's in this time.
I think he could have gone another lap or two. They did have the caution lap from the first wreck on the race on lap 1, so they could have gone a little bit longer fuel-wise. Maybe felt that he just wanted to do the 1 lap, make sure he covers them, and is able to keep relatively similar pace. But he should be safe to exit pit road, and there you see the 20 of Connor Havrilla. He's going to be running in second. Still hasn't come down pit road, so he's actually technically the race leader as everyone starts to emerge back. So when he decides to come down pit road, that will cycle everything back out to Wyatt Tinsley. And you know, this as someone further back in the field, probably just trying something different, seeing what works out, maybe hoping for a caution. And if he's able to get that, this could work out really good for him. But he's got a tight window left. I think he's probably got 3 or 4 to 5 laps tops left on that fuel. You see the 25 of Workman going into his pit stall. He's going to take his service in there. Jake Mulder having to check up a little bit, kind of gets on the apron, having to avoid that 20 as he goes around him.
He's going to have to unlap himself here. The 51 will easily get around on the fresh rubber. And Havrilla now, the only driver yet to come into pit road. And here is the signal. He'll dive onto the apron. Jake Materia is going to go by. Same deal for Nick Penna. And sooner than later, we should see Wyatt Tinsley surge ahead back to the start-finish line as your race leader. And Havrilla, currently in his position going into this race, was 11 points behind the cut line. So this call could potentially help him to gain some more points and maybe slow the bleeding going into Charlotte, the final race of the round of 9 next week. So far, he's going to lose out as Wyatt Tinsley makes quick progress. And usually, Francisco, we'd see the cycle take just a little bit because more drivers would stay out longer than expected. But it seems as though everybody came down pit road in a rather condensed amount of time. So Tinsley, he almost loses the car trying to get around Brayson Collins into turn 3. He quickly surges back to the lead, although he could have lost it just as quickly right there.
Yeah, Brayson doesn't want to go a lap down, so he's going to battle his number counterpart going into turn 1. 3 wide for a brief second, and almost into the wall goes the 5, trying to make sure he gives Collins some room, and he should have the advantage here off the corner using that outside as momentum. So close call there for Wyatt Tinsley, and he's able to go by the 5 of Brayson Collins. But I don't think that strategy is going to work out too well for Havrilla there. He waited too long, and not to mention that he was already far behind to begin with, so he's probably, I think, already a lap down in the race, so he's going to be a lap down and having to make up that the positions with new tires. And he has the goal for him is to unlap himself or be the first car 1 lap down. So there he is right now on the racetrack. And if we look at our leader, Wyatt Tinsley, I think he's going to be somewhere on the other side of the racetrack. There you see him go out of turn 2. The 20 had just gone into turn 1, so he is about 8 seconds, 9 seconds behind the race leader. So he should be able to catch him, maybe not super quick, but if he's able to do it quick enough, it could work out in his favor because he has to make up the lap.
The problem for Havrilla, though, is that he's about 6 spots short of the lucky dog position if we were to get a yellow flag. He currently lines up 23rd on the racetrack, just behind TJ Laird. The first driver 1 lap down is 17th place Ryan Martin, who, by the way, is also a playoff driver. Haven't talked about him too much here tonight. And rather interesting paint scheme. You see the guitar right there on the side of his Chevrolet Camaro. Very smart for Nashville, fitting of the theme. I like it, like a very nice scheme, but Martin came into this race 5 points below the cut line. So not as much work he had to do comparative to Havrilla, but still some progress he has to make. He is the closest one to unlapping himself. He's rather close there to Wyatt Tinsley. I believe he's got some fresher rubber, depending, we'll see. And there is the look out of the driver of the 9 car trying to catch up to the 005, who, by the way, has opened up the gap from first to second to a total of 3.5 seconds.
So a little thing there with that 9. I like the guitar on the side there, and it reminds me of when I went to Nashville a month ago or so, Kenneth. I was walking through the streets, and those who have been there know about the city. They play live music and the restaurants and all that. And very funnily, the first song I heard anybody playing when I went walking on Broadway was one of the bands were playing Nothing Else Matters by Metallica, and I found that to be very interesting because, you know, for those who know me, Metallica is my favorite metal band, so I found that to be very nice.
I think they knew you were coming. They had to welcome you somehow.
I think so.
they knew the Bucket Owls were in town. They had to make sure that they treated you nicely. But here's a look at Austin Doran riding in second as he tags the outside wall. That's been a problem for a lot of drivers tonight, Francisco, is the exit of turn 4. It's not really the exit of turn 2. It seems like a lot of drivers seem to be okay with the transition to the back straightaway, but it's usually just out of the 4th corner when you go onto the front straightaway to the start-finish line, where I guess many drivers in the field just want to push a little bit, just try to get as much throttle as they can out of the corner, and they just can't because the car understeers and it just slams into the wall. We've seen many drivers do that tonight, and unfortunately it's stricken a lot of playoff competitors as well.
And you'll notice that when we go on board here, so he just exited turn 4 right now, but let's go for a lap around here with Josh Patterson and see what he sees. So this is the position the driver's in. He goes into turn 1, he backs it down, goes at this point in the run probably down to a high 120 miles per hour. And you see how smooth the exit of turn 2 is. You can unwind the wheel and really get it to get smooth. You can probably avoid the wall with relative ease, even on old tires, and then you can back into 3. Around the same speed, maybe just a little bit less, and he misses the bottom, so he's going to start drifting up the racetrack, and look how abruptly turn 4 ends. So you really have to crank the wheel if you're tight, and that's probably not a good thing. So that's why you see some guys either get out of the throttle or get into the wall when they go through that corner. It's just a very abrupt exit compared to turn 2, and you saw he actually lost a spot there by that mistake of his, and he's going to allow Christian Visconti to move up another one.
That's the problem. It's the rotation, I think, in the middle, in the apex, where a lot of drivers in the field have had trouble. Majority of them just kind of push over out of it, and then by the time they get to the middle, they miss it. So they're all the way in the middle, and they think, okay, if I hold in the throttle, maybe this car will rotate back to my favor. And usually, more often than not, it does not, and it pushes up to the wall. That's why you see drivers slow down out of turn 4, just to make sure they don't add some extra damage to their NASCAR Xfinity Series cars. So Christian Visconti made that pass. That was for 4th on the racetrack. Of course, they're all trying to catch up to Gino Mayer, who holds in the last spot on the podium, and he's been the highest running playoff driver up until this point. We mentioned a little bit early on in the race that Josh Patterson was back in 13th as one of the highest running playoff drivers. Gino Mayer has pretty much controlled the playoff pace. And also, if you're wondering where in the world is Garrett White, he's not in this race. He won last week, so he looks to be comfortable going into Homestead, Miami, and especially Charlotte next week, having to have really no trouble to get into the championship 4. But he's not here to go in and dominate a race like Wyatt Tinsley has done so far. So it has kind of helped the playoff drivers just a little bit to surge ahead of the 26, but then they get the trade-off of a non-playoff driver going out and doing this performance.
It kind of cancels out because him not being here means that everyone sort of technically gains that spot. So it doesn't actually do that much for them in the overall big picture. I guess it puts them a spot higher up in the running order, but since everyone's up one, it does nothing in the overall sort of picture of the race. But nonetheless, you see right now Patterson working lap traffic. That's the 34. You see very, very close to him, and they were pretty loose off the corner. He's going to try and go to the inside now and take that spot. That's Henry Clapper right now running in 22nd, 1 lap down in this race, not having the run he's wanted to. So a little bit of rear damage. He's actually going to pound the wall off turn 4. You see the 85 TJ Lair going to go to the outside, and the 34 is having to stay off of him as the car was starting to drift up, and you can tell these guys are struggling with damaged race cars, worn tires. Despite them pitting about 15 or 20 so laps ago at this point, the tires, they wear incredibly fast here.
Yeah, that's the thing. You take only a couple laps, and all of a sudden your Goody Eagles are screaming for grip. And by the way, that is a pass for track position on the racetrack. Both of them, the 85 and the 34, 1 lap down. And with Lair getting ahead of Clapper for just a slight moment, he's going to be able to surge for 22nd. Of course, they're trying to catch up to Connor Rivilla, who is a total of 2.6 seconds in front, as Patterson and the rest of the field will continue to work lap traffic. 34 will go underneath. He'll switch a hand and he'll take over P22 for the moment before Lair will try to take it right back. So I mentioned earlier that 17 cars, or the 16 cars, were on the lead lap. It remains the same. Rather, it's actually 15 cars on the lead lap. Shane Fuller was put a lap down on the racetrack, so he's now in lucky dog position if a yellow flag comes out. Nick Penez looks to be the next one going to get put a lap down here, as there is the race leader, the Martin Sports Chevrolet Camaro of Wyatt Tinsley. Probably going to make quick work. Jake Mativier now going to be next on the chopping block as he comes out of turn 4. Closing in on what's going to be the final 20 laps of this race in the Limeade Music City 100 from the virtual Nashville Super Speedway. It has been all Wyatt Tinsley for most of the event. We'll take a short break and go side by side, but you won't miss a thing live on the KBueno Racing Network.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Welcome back to the virtual Nashville Super Speedway, where we are officially at the 10-lap-to-go mark here in this Limeade Music City 100 for the round of 9 in the WORC Dynamo Science National Series season. Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacchial along with you for the ride here in the KBueno Racing Network, and Wyatt Tinsley has put on a clinic. We've gone through green flag pit stops, and that was really the only stop needed to get to the end of this race. Tinsley and company did it fairly cleanly, and now it is a total of 8.5 seconds between this 005, your pole sitter, and the 55 of Austin Doran, who may end up in a battle for a second. Sooner than later, if Gino Mero is able to catch up, they're going to lap here Ethan Workman. And Francisco, what a stretch it's been for this 005. I mean, very dominant. I think the last time we saw him in this series participating. Did well, but just could not find the end of the race that he probably wanted. But tonight it's been completely different, and different in a very, very good way.
Yeah, he's been out front basically from the drop of the green. Had that battle with Austin Dorn for a bit, but otherwise he was able to take it right back and decided that he was not going to allow that 55 to come down and make a pass on. I think actually the pass has been made for second. Maro has moved up now into second. Austin Dorn's down into third, and they're almost 10 seconds behind the leader, so they're losing ground big time in the closing stages of the race. Wyatt Tinsley with a big lead has probably backed it down just a little bit to ensure he doesn't make an unnecessary mistake like getting into the wall or getting loose or doing anything that would take him out of the race win inside of 10 laps to go in this one. And right now he's just hoping to get to the white flag and ensure that the race will end under green flag so he doesn't have to think about pit stops or any restarts.
Now, of course, they're going to work around lap traffic. And mentioned the 25 of Ethan Workman. Workman currently sits in 16th, and we now have 13 drivers on the lead lap as you continue to watch this battle for second, as Doran has yet to let the 71 go. Almost strike the outside wall there out of turn 4. I had the same sentiment there, Francisco. Just kind of a whoa moment there for the 55. He'll end up in a bit of a gap there to the 71, but Merrill so far holding on as second, doing well in that regard. We're coming into the final 6 laps here from Nashville. And Wyatt Tinsley, all he has to do is just hold on and pray that a yellow flag does not come out. But even if a yellow does arise and a restart happens, you figure that Tinsley is probably going to be cool, calm, and collected, and he can still walk away with the race win at will. It's just how good of a night it's been for this Martin Sports Chevrolet Camaro. As he comes out of turn 2, that's Caden Ripe. He just got by.
It's been a good night for him, Kenneth. And we were talking about this under break. Just want to get this in for those who may not know that may be watching, but breaking news is that Formula One will be going to Las Vegas next year. Thoughts on that?
It's going to be very big, and that's going to be, what, the 3rd race that happens in the United States, Miami, being the second added after COTA in Austin, Texas, and then we're going to have a 3rd U.S. location in Las Vegas. That's going to be very big.
Thanksgiving, too.
Yeah, that's going to be, oh, wow, Thanksgiving, that's going to be very big on the time slot. I think that's going to go against the NFL games that happen on Thanksgiving, too. Nationally televised events on, I believe, NBC. But, I mean, I think I joked about it right before we came back from break that really nobody showed up for a parking lot Caesars Palace race that happened back, I think, in the 70s and the 80s when F1 came there for just a little bit. I know that IndyCar in the United States tried to do the same thing, but hopefully it's not a parking lot somewhere next to a hotel. It's a proper race, and maybe we could see Formula One cars on the strip. I think that'd be the perfect setting if you're the owner of Formula One.
It would be. It'd be nice to see the cars on the strip. But speaking of parking lots, you know the Miami race is in the parking lot of Hard Rock Stadium, right?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That is true. I hope it's not a snooze fest like the Caesars Palace one was. But
I don't think so.
I mean, they've got a stadium in the middle. I think they can make do. If it gets too boring, they got some entertainment in the stadium. So I think that's fine. Maybe they bring the Dolphins.
Bring out Bad Bunny.
Yeah, bring out Bad Bunny, bring out J Bobby, bring out whoever. But as we close in, it's going to be the final 2.5 laps here for Wyatt Tinsley. Got a batch of lap traffic right in front of him, but Tinsley doesn't look like he's going to catch up to them quite quickly, so he can pretty much stay behind them and smooth sail all the way to the start-finish line. You saw a pass for a 4th lap, and a little bit earlier as Tinsley would cross the line for 2 laps to go. That was Joe Berge getting around Christian Visconti for 4th. Wyatt Tinsley, all focus on him. What a stellar race it's been all evening for the driver of the 005. Set the pole, set the fastest lap, and has since controlled the race. Had a bit of a tussle with Austin Duran, and it looked like maybe he could have succumbed to the pressure a bit, but he found his way back to the top, and that's where he's been ever since.
There's nothing more we can say about this 5 car, Kenneth. He's been on it since the drop of the green flag, since the restart on lap 4. He's a lap away. You see cars striking the outside wall in front of him. I think he's going to try and slow it down. He doesn't want to get involved in their battle, just ensuring that he can come back to the checkered flag with the win. He's just over 11 seconds clear of 2nd place. No reason to push it at all right now. You see he's actually taking it rather slow, so you can visually tell he's just trying to bring it home. He's got just under 3/4 of a mile to go before he gets another win on the season. A dominant race for him, Kenneth. He's been able to lead all these laps. I think he's led over 70 laps in this one. But out of turn 4, it's going to be Wyatt Tinsley capturing the win in the Music City.
Wyatt Tinsley wins the Limeade Music City 100. as it was a dominating race for him. Battle for second still underway. That's Gino Merrill. Actually got over to Austin Doran 1.2 seconds, and the playoff driver is going to have a good spot waiting for him in Charlotte. Austin Doran's going to capitalize the top three. Joe Berge is able to hold on against Christian Visconti for fourth as Visconti arrives in the top five. But the 5-car, Wyatt Tinsley, will go to victory lane for the very first time this season. I believe the last time we saw him in competition was at Las Vegas. This time goes to the East Coast and comes with flair. Wyatt Tinsley, your winner, as he'll burn it down in the Music City as it blares all four on the Martin Sports Chevrolet Camaro to victory lane in 2022.
Trying to figure out what he's doing. I think he's trying to go around the racetrack again. I think that's exactly what he's going to do. Tried to do a burnout there. I don't think it worked out the way he thought he could do it. So I think he's going to try and go around the racetrack again. Not doing the Polish lap. He's going in the right direction. There you see he's going to drift it through 3 and 4.
I think he's doing the Casey Curran here, Francisco, after he wins the race. Instead of doing a solid burnout, he just drifts all over the racetrack. That's his style.
I think he's going to slide it through the grass here, maybe.
Different for Wyatt Tinsley, but nonetheless, you can tell a lot of emotion, a lot of happiness here from the 5-car. He gets to victory lane, and he'll drift it back into turn 1. Yeah, I don't think he's going for a burnout on the front straightaway. All he wants to focus on is just drifting around the track. As Wyatt Tinsley wins, he'll officially spin it out here next to the NSS2 sign on the back straightaway. Wyatt Tinsley, your winner here tonight in the Limeade Music City 100. There's Jay Mulder sliding by to help in the celebrations. Though we'll take a look at your full field rundown, see exactly where every driver finished at the end of 77 laps. There. Wyatt Tinsley, your race winner for the first time this season. Gino Merrill, very, very much needed playoff run there for the 71. He's going to have a good look going into Charlotte to end the round of 9 next week. Austin Doran holds on for third. Had a good fight with Wyatt Tinsley earlier on, but just could not catch back up. Still a solid outing out of the 55. We'll talk to all 3 of the drivers there, finishing first, second, and third in just a couple of moments. Joe Berge goes from very, very deep in the field to P4. He started 31st on the grid, or rather 30th on the racetrack, but still a great pickup there. The hardest charger, no doubt, all night long. Christian Visconti ends up in the top 5. Very good and clean run for the Visco car Chevrolet. Josh Patterson, fellow playoff driver who was second in playoff standings coming into tonight, will surely keep his gap to the cut line very well. He'll be in P6 at the end of it. Mason Sweet will be P7. Logan Pugh ends up in 8th. Jaden Carter will finish 9th. And Jay Mulder, a very good run near the end. It's going to help him points-wise. He'll end up in the last spot, the top 10.
Timmy Spatz, another playoff driver, he's going to be down in the 11th spot, generally up on most of them. Quentin Haley's going to finish in that 12th spot, the last car on the lead lap. Caden Reif is going to be the first car one lap down in 13th, so you can just tell the pace that your race leader and your race winner was on there at the end of the race. Jake Mativier started up in the front, will finish in the top 15. Nick Pena will be in the 15th position, with Ethan Workman down the order in 16th position. 25 didn't have the run he was hoping for. Ryan Martin will finish in 17th, and also not a run that this playoff driver was looking to have. Shane Fuller tagged the wall pretty hard and ended up down in 18th with that damaged race car. Brayson Collins, last in points entering this one, not the run he needed to have, is going to be in a must-win next week, Kenneth. He has to win to try and make the championship round, and Ryan Kine is going to be in the 20th position in that 2-car.
You see the driver's 21st on back. Connor Hervilla, we saw him stay out, was pretty much the last driver to stay out under green flag pit stop circumstances, but could not find some track position at the end of that call. He is 1 lap down in 21st. TJ Lair got involved in the first yellow tonight on the back straightaway. I'd say this is a solid recovery for the driver there. He is 1 lap down, 22nd. Henry Clappert was 23rd. We saw them going side by side for a little bit, Lair and Clappert, but fortunately for Lair, he's able to win that battle, and he gets 22nd out of all of it. J. Ramiah Brooks in his first start in the 001 car. He is 24th, 2 laps down. Not the greatest debut outing for this driver here. Noah Boucher in the 16 will end up into the top 25. Hunter Bailey would be 4 laps down in 26. Lath Hicks in the 06, despite a very good start run, got into the wall with Shane Fuller in synchronizing fashion out of turn 4, came down to pit road to repair it. He ended up 7 laps down at the end of it all. Ryan Zabot in the 26, 23 laps down in 28th. Jeremy Lapinus in the 64. Didn't see much of him tonight. He was 24 laps down in 29th. Brandon Sampson had a decent start, but did not have a great finish, 29 laps down in P30. These are the final drivers in this grid. Frederick Seagraves, 95. We saw him get some airtime with contact with Logan Pugh going into turn 3. He ended up 36 laps down in 31st. Then it's Matthew McDonald and Jason Gallagher Jr. to the final drivers in this 34-car field. So as we turn our attention away from the race results, we'll turn our attention over to Victory Lane, where we have Wyatt Tinsley, the winner for the first time here in this 2022 season. As he ends up in Victory Lane, we'll celebrate as he wins the Limeade Music City 100 here tonight from Nashville. We'll take a moment to have him step into Victory Lane. And Wyatt, last time we saw you, you ran well, but it wasn't at this level. And tonight you just showed the whole field how good you could be in this circumstance and with this car and with this track. Walk us through just a dominating performance from start to finish.
Yeah, it was a fun race. I appreciate everyone coming out. Appreciate y'all broadcasting it. I was like, hey, I saw this on my league page and I love Nashville. And it was a fun battle with Austin there. Like, when we had the battle, and then I don't know what happened to him. I guess he just didn't save his tires. That's what he told me. But yeah, it was a fun experience. I don't know what next week is, but if there's a next week, I'll come back next week. See if I can have another good battle. Maybe Parker White will be there. We'll have a good battle. Yeah, or anyone else that wants to come join us.
Well, nonetheless, it was a solid fight. Of course, like you mentioned, yourself and Austin Duran. But I think after that battle settled, it looked like nobody else could put the challenge up to you. And you said it. You like Nashville Super Speedway. And I think a lot of people can say the same because we had a full 34-car grid here tonight. A very large number compared to Iowa just 1 week ago. What is so unique and what is so cool about this Nashville Super Speedway for you that you enjoy as a racing driver?
It's just they used to run it back in the day, and like they added it to the game, and it's just been a fun experience. When I first bought it last year for like the NASCAR stuff and some leagues and stuff, it was just fun to run. Like, you go into the corner, you brake, you get the car rotated, and then you just gas it off the corner. It just rotates. It's amazing.
Well, it worked out for you. You dominate the field, and you lead a majority of this race to end up here in a victory lane for the first time here in this 2022 WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. So I think that's also a good note, too. First win of the season comes for you here at the Nashville Super Speedway. Final question I want to ask you, though, on this win and with your experience, did the IDK player-hosted races help you out? Because I know he's ran races here. He's ran hosted here at this Nashville Super Speedway, and I'm pretty sure you've been a part of it. Did that help, or I don't know?
I mean, I don't know, actually. I have actually run numerous races in the IDK player stuff here at Nashville. Like, I think I have, like, the most wins at Nashville in IDK player stuff. But, yeah, I just enjoy this track, nevertheless, and it's really fun to drive, especially... Definitely really fun to drive in the Gen 6, but it's even more fun in the Xfinity car if they could just get the right heights set up, because it was a little bumpy through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 through the corner. But if you can just get it, that's why I was sticking behind Austin there, because I was trying to figure out like the track, like which line to run, and like he showed me, and I appreciate him for helping me out there.
Well, you get this win, first one of this season, and you do it in a clinic fashion. Wyatt, before we let you go here from the Nashville Super Speedway, is there anybody you just want to thank for making this all possible?
Yeah, I think Martin Sports, iFlag, and Gavin Newt for making my paint scheme, every paint scheme I have. So appreciate him.
Well, we certainly appreciate. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I thought you had finished.
I don't have anything else to say, sorry.
Okay. All right, my bad. Well, nonetheless, Wyatt, we appreciate the time. We want to congratulate you on behalf of our team here at this win in the Limeade Music City 100. And like you said, you want to show up next week. It'll be Charlotte 1 week from tonight, so we hope to see you there. But from here, congratulations on the win.
Thank you. Thank you for broadcasting. Sorry.
I apologize there, kind of cutting the way, but Wyatt Tinsley is your winner here tonight from the Nashville Super Speedway and leads the majority of the race. No doubt the most dominant driver tonight, and deservedly so. Earned the win start to finish, no doubt. But we'll turn to P2, and it's a playoff story for Gino Mero. The Ford Mustang ends up in second, and he's caught up with our very own Francisco Bacallao.
Gino, it was a strong run for most of the night, and you overcame everything to come away with a P2 finish, a much-needed P2 finish in this playoff hopes for you. What can you just take us through what this whole race was like for you?
This race, I mean, it's Nashville. I mean, you just gotta keep to the bottom, tire save, and honestly, don't whack the wall. But this race was honestly just, I knew I had the quality position, and I was ahead of all the playoff drivers, and I'm just like, okay, as long as I can finish ahead of them, I'm okay coming to Charlotte. But it was honestly just a mental game and just trying to just keep my head down and know what's what. I kind of fell back at the start. My brake bias was a bit too far up, so I kept slowing down a bit early, and I dialed it back, and that's when I was going. But yeah.
Yeah, it ended up working well for you. You're running in the top three essentially the whole night, and this ought to help you really good in the playoff standings. So as you move into Charlotte next week, with just that race remaining before the championship four, what do you feel you have to do in that race to give yourself the best opportunity to race for a championship at Homestead in 2 weeks?
Honestly, Charlotte, I really do want to qualify for that track. Charlotte's amazing, but it's definitely loose. And I feel like if we get into a long run, it's going to be fun. But for me, given the fact that this race went so cleanly for me, I'm probably just going to relax for that race, take a deep breather, and not really try to go for the win. If I'm in position to, sure, but might not qualify next week just to be extra safe.
Of course, that's the plan. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, depending on what the points look like, because I know I was out ahead, but I'm not sure about the gaps before.
Well, with the strong run, it should definitely put you at least in that bubble area, which is better than being several points down the order. But of course, all that's going to be settled next week. This week, P2 finish. Who's all to thank for it?
Like I said, like you see almost every week, big thanks to Seth. He kind of checks me up on my pace and lets me know about stuff. And, he's been honestly kind of sticking with me for a couple of races. He helped me win Las Vegas. He raced with me at Dega, and he helped me there even. But yeah, big thanks to him. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have finished P2 without him.
I appreciate you taking the time with us, Gino, and we wish you luck at Charlotte to try and make that championship fight. Congrats on the P2 effort.
Yep, thank you.
That was a good run by Gino Mero. Ends up P2, and no doubt going to have a lot of good points going into Charlotte 1 week from today. Going to hold on to what could be a championship 4 ticket going into Homestead of Miami Speedway. We'll talk to Austin Dorn in the 55, who ends up as the final driver in the podium. And Austin, it looked like from the drop of the green, obviously Wyatt Tinsley had speed, but so did you. You kept the fight with him for a couple of laps, and you were pretty much the second best driver all night long. Walk us through your experience with this race and with the entire challenge of what was this Nashville Super Speedway tonight.
Yeah, man, it was fun. It was first time here at Nashville with the Xfinity cars, so I was hoping to get a good amount of learning off of Wyatt there, running behind him for a bit. But yeah, I knew he was going to be saving his tires, so I kind of wanted to get out front and see how it would feel to lead, but that didn't last very long. So yeah, my plan was just right around in second, because I knew Wyatt was going to take off because he's really good on the long run. So yeah, I just kind of rode around in second, but hit the wall later in the race and was down on power a little bit, so that allowed Gino to get by. But yeah, I'll still take third.
No doubt, obviously a strong run here for you. And this race, I mean, apart from the first couple of jitters and I believe the first caution, it pretty much went green for the entirety of the event. You obviously had to work through some green flag pit stops. You had to work through some battles with lap traffic. How was that in the dynamic? Was it any difficult to get around lap traffic tonight? Or did you feel that a lot of them gave you the respect and it was rather easy to get through and still focus on your task in hand, which is, of course, was trying to win the race?
Yeah, lap traffic wasn't too bad. Green flag pit stops are always fun. I always enjoy those. So it was fun working through lap traffic, and yeah, they were pretty good for the most part.
That seems to be all good for you, and you end up in third. And now we head into the hometown of NASCAR, and I think with the sponsor you have, Jimmy Johnson Central, I think that may help you just a little bit, because a certain Jimmy Johnson was very successful at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. What are your thoughts about that track coming up in 1 week?
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. I always enjoy running that track, so we'll see how it goes.
No doubt, gonna appreciate seeing you there 1 week from tonight. Before we let you go, Austin, is there anybody you just want to thank for making tonight's run at Nashville happen?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my team, Redemption Motorsports, Jimmy Johnson Central, URP, the NASCAR Hotspot, SD Graphics, Snowman Studios, and my dad for watching.
We certainly thank you, Austin, for taking the time to talk with us. We appreciate the time, and as always, on behalf of our team, congratulations on this third place finish here tonight from the Nashville Super Speedway. We'll see you at the hometown of NASCAR. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, thank you.
That's Austin Doron, who ends up in third. Of course, still looking for that third win here in 2022. And maybe the 1.5-mile track over in Charlotte with the Jimmy Johnson colors will help him just a little bit. But we'll turn it back up to the broadcast booth, Francisco. And this race, I mean, much like Iowa, very clean. Of course, the one caution that kind of brought us to our senses just a little bit from the flag-to-flag racing we were accustomed to in the cornfields. But a very clean race overall here from the Music City. And how about Wyatt Tinsley, a standout effort overall, and Gino Merrill being able to surge ahead in the playoff standings. I believe we do not have Francisco, so I guess we'll turn it over to what's going to be coming up here on the KBueno Racing Network, and coming up here in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. Of course, Nashville, you can check that off of the list, and we only have 2 races remaining. Charlotte will be the final race in the round of 9, and then of course we'll cut the 9 drivers down to only 4, and those 4 will fight for the title all the way at Homestead Miami Speedway in South Florida. That'll be on April 7th, 2 weeks from tonight. A lot of excitement, and I believe we have Francisco back in it. So Francisco, 2 races left, 2 1.5-mile tracks, 9 drivers vying for 4 spots. Charlotte is going to be filled with a lot of drama.
Yeah, my apologies there, but Charlotte, you mentioned it, is going to be the cutoff race, and it's going to be all decided right then and there. Who gets in, who doesn't, who's able to come away with the win. If we have a playoff driver, especially below the cutoff, that wins, that's really going to shake things up, and can't rule anything out. Anything can happen late in the race. We've seen it on iRacing, we've seen it in real life, how everything looks a certain way inside the final 10 or 5 laps of the race. A caution could just change everything, or one incident can change everything. So you can't exactly count out everybody just yet, because they'll be doing anything, they'll do anything in order to try and win a championship, or at least put themselves in position to win it. And that's what's going to be on display next week at Charlotte, and I can't wait to see that.
What's going to be more exciting is, of course, how the drivers that are beneath the cut line, how are they going to attack Charlotte? Are they going to be more aggressive? Are they going to still remain calm and hold out their same strategies that they've employed throughout most of the playoffs? Do we see something else happen, and do we see a non-playoff spoiler get to victory lane like we saw here tonight with Wyatt Tinsley? Who knows? A lot of questions going into NASCAR's hometown, with that track being fitting for what's going to be a very great cutoff race in 1 week on March 31st. We thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. Of course, got to thank all the people that make it happen here on the WORC side of things. Josh Patterson, Brayson Collins, the owners, all the admins that helps these races happen and pretty much catapults this league each and every single week. And on behalf of our team here at the KBueno Racing Network, for Keelan Belsha, for Charlie Beyer, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Francisco Bacallao, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long and good night from the Music City. We'll turn the volume back down to 0, but we'll crank the sounds up of engines back at Charlotte Motor Speedway in 1 week time. Congratulations to Wyatt Tinsley, first win of 2022. The round of 9 ends next week.